Hey, welcome in, everybody. How you doing? Gabe DeArmond here. Jarod Hamilton going to join us momentarily. This is your PowerMizzou live show on Wednesday afternoon. We're going to talk a little bit of Mizzou Auburn coming up. Second half of the show, we're going to have my friend JG Tate previewing the Auburn Tigers, but we're going to spend the first part talking about the other Tigers, the ones from Columbia, the ones that we deal with every day. Any comments, questions you have, throw them in. We'll get to them shortly. Jarod, what's going on? What's going on, man? How you doing?
What's going on? I'm excited. Big week for everybody.
It is a big week. It is a big week. We'll get to that momentarily. But before we do that, the first thing we always do on this show, it's always a big week at James Carlton State Farm Insurance in St. Louis, Missouri. You get in touch with James Carlton State Farm at carltoninsurance.net. You can give him a phone call at 314-961-4800. There's a Facebook page there. Go to facebook.com, Carlton Insurance, and you can find him. He has a lot of stuff he's doing with teen drivers. He's got homeowners insurance, basically all your insurance needs. Just check him out. He's a Mizzou fan, a PowerMizzou subscriber. Just give him your first shot to match or better what you're paying for insurance every month. Also, if you tell him you heard about his agency on PowerMizzou, he's going to donate $20 to Advancing Missouri Athletes, which is the Mizzou NIL collective. And Jarod, we are here at the game that I feel like it's week 4. I don't want to go too far, but this is at least potentially a season-defining game, really for both teams, but especially for Missouri, I feel like.
This was the game that we said since before La Tech that it was either K-State or Auburn, and you noted this on Mizzou That's Who, episode 7. You guys need to check that out as well. That
nice. There you go. Little cross promotion. I appreciate that.
You said that it's kind of like hitting free throws. When you need to make 2 free throws, it's easier to make the second if you made the first one. But once you miss the first one, it's kind of, you got to bounce back and hit that second one for sure. So they've missed the first free throw at K-State, and now they got to go to Auburn on the road, which they're not great at, and knock down that free throw.
And the thing about that K-State game to me, had they shown up and let's say they just get beat 27-20 or whatever, like I think Missouri fans would be going into this one with a different attitude. But because they got railroaded and basically didn't show up, here's the one thing that can't happen on Saturday. If Missouri shows up against a bad Auburn team and it's like 21-3 at halftime and this game's over at halftime like the K-State one was, man, it's going to get ugly for Eli Drinkwitz.
It's going to be tough. And something that we've been on the position groups, you guys see my grades as far as how we think team or the positions are going, game by game. And when you think about it, how you just mentioned it, if they played Kansas State and it was like 27-20 or something like that, they'd feel more confident going into Auburn.
Yeah.
And you think they had La Tech and Abilene Christian, not really great opponents. And then they got blown out in their one FBS game. It's like we still really don't know completely of what we have going into Auburn. We have an idea based off what we've gotten, but we don't know for sure.
Yeah. I feel like Auburn's kind of the chance to show, hey, K-State was like, that's going to be the worst performance of the year. Like, hey, this team can bounce back. There's still a lot of season left. But if you go down to Auburn and it's similar to K-State, like that's what you are now. Like there's no getting out of that. That's just who you become.
They would paint themselves into a corner easily with that. So yeah. And I don't know if this is really the case where it's like if they had went 27-20 with Kansas State, where it's just like moral victories in that sense. It's more like you've got to beat Auburn because Auburn's not great enough for a moral victory to just lift everybody up.
Yep. Yeah. To me, I don't care how ugly it is. You can win 3-2, but you have to end this day with more points than they have because, otherwise you're sitting there 2-2. You beat La Tech and an FCS team. Man, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but Georgia coming to town next week, and I don't think that one's going to turn out real well for Missouri. So it's a huge game. But Zach brings up a good point in the comments. It's potentially season defining for Eli Drinkwitz but it is more than that for Brian Harsin. Like I've made the joke a number of times this week. Our preview for this game could just be the Spider-Man meme. Like they're the same team, man. Like the only difference is if Eli Drinkwitz loses this game, people are going to be mad. If Brian Harsin loses this game, he might not have a job on Monday morning.
Yeah, it's that the Spider-Man. That's a good one. That's a good one because my feature that's coming out this week. There's so many similars, not with the programs itself, but Harsin, Drinkwitz, Harsin, Baker, and even the QB coach Bush Hamdan. So there's a lot of connections that go between these programs, just besides them sharing a conference and a mascot.
Mm-hmm. And Drinkwitz kind of started his college football career at Auburn. There's a lot of storylines that make this one kind of interesting, but ultimately it just comes down to, I mean, I kind of asked Drinkwitz yesterday, like, hey, Harsin pretty well. So does any of that figure into, hey, you know what he's going to do, or he knows what you're going to do? But I mean, it's been 9 years since they worked together. So you would hope that both of them have evolved to the point where you wouldn't be able to go back to an Arkansas State game and figure out what they're going to do. But what's the biggest concern for Missouri going into this one from your point of view?
It's always going to be the offensive line until I'm shown otherwise. And it doesn't help that it would have been something if after the Kansas State game, Drink said we need to evaluate and see who the best five are. He said that after facing FCS Abilene Christian, we need to evaluate and see who the best five guys are. They had 5 holding penalties versus an FCS team, and I think a fall starting to go with it as far as the offensive line did. That's not a great sign, especially when everybody's been talking up about how great Auburn's front seven is.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, look, Auburn might not be great, but I promise they're better than Abilene Christian. I mean, they got some dudes up front, and nothing works offensively if the line doesn't work. And Javon Baxley brings up a good point. Do we know if Drink has changed the offense enough to think the team can execute a short passing attack or a West Coast offense? But to me, it's not necessarily that, but we've had a lot of questions. I had a couple in my mailbag about, hey, do you think about putting in a 6th offensive lineman or do an unbalanced line, something like that? Tell me if you disagree with this. What I would do if I'm Eli Drinkwitz, I would actually go the opposite way. I would go a lot of 4 receiver sets, some 5 receiver sets, spread it out, put the offensive tackles a good distance from the quarterback and just say, look, my best players are my wide receivers. I'm going to spread these dudes so thin east and west that hopefully I can run between some of the gaps. And if not, hey, I'm just going to put it on Brady Cook to complete some passes to his wideouts.
I think that's the only way you can go. I read the mailbag as well. You made a point that it doesn't do them enough justice to put a 6th offensive lineman out there, because if that 6th man was good, he'd be one of the starters. They're just throwing another body out there. In fact, it'd just be throwing out a bigger tight end, because we know the tight ends haven't been doing much in the past game. So that's what that would be doing in essence. So what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to complete quicker routes, shorter routes, close to the line of scrimmage, because this is not an FCS opponent. Brady Cook is going to need to get the ball out anyway versus this front 7 going against the line that's struggling. So I don't know if it matters so much about the scheme completely as just make it simple. Keep it simple. Is it keep it simple? I'm not going to call them stupid, but that's what it is.
Right. I got you. Well, and that's kind of the thing is, like, I don't mean any disrespect to Mitchell Walters by saying this, but okay, he might be better than Connor Wood or Zeke Powell or whoever he replaces. One of the backup linemen might be a little better, but I don't think the gap is huge, right? Like, I mean, putting Mitchell Walters is not in the lineup is not the thing that takes this line from what it's been to good enough to win 8 games. So you're going to have to figure out a way to scheme around it. AU Stock wants to know, do people forget about last week if Mizzou wins this week? I don't think it's so much about last week as it is 2 weeks ago, but yeah, if you win this game, it kind of does erase Kansas State to some extent. I mean, we said all along, look, they got to be 3-1 coming out of Auburn. It doesn't really matter how you get there.
Yeah, It erases last week, and to a degree, it erases Kansas State. I'm not going to say it completely erases it, because if they have another type stinker to a team that maybe they have a chance against, maybe we're talking to South Carolina, there's some maybe about Florida, that's a kind of shaky situation. If they have that performance, like how they did versus Kansas State, then Kansas State rears its ugly head again. But it will quiet stuff for a minute, because, like you said, 3-1 going into the Georgia game.
Yeah, what it will do is stop the, oh my God, we have to fire Eli Drinkwitz next week. And now, look, we know that's not sensible talk. It doesn't really matter. But, hey, this team could use something to feel good about, no question. Mo Football says, I'm looking for the players to be fired up, ready to run through a brick wall. Otherwise, I have to question whether Drink is the guy. And I agree, this team needs to come out fired up. They're going into Jordan-Hare. It's going to be wild. They need to they can't win the game in the first quarter, but they can lose it. But I'll also say this, I don't think Eli Drinkwitz should have to spend a lot of time getting this team fired up. If you can't get up for this game, what the hell are you doing here? Right? I mean, this is your season.
Yeah, I mean, you took, that's exactly what I was going to say. If you can't get up for an SEC opponent, first conference, game of the year, knowing that what did they say last week? Toski Dub said they have all these chips on their shoulders and stuff like that.
Right.
If you can't get yourself motivated, knowing that you guys aren't great on the road, knowing that this is a great opportunity to kind of quiet, the critics and stuff like that, then, what are you doing here?
Yeah. Cameron Madsen says, what do we know about the potential starting Auburn quarterbacks now that JT Finley has been, or TJ Finley, I guess, has been ruled out? So Finley's not going to play according to all reports, but that's just like one of 3 Auburn guys that's out. I don't even know if they lost their starting quarterback. They just lost a quarterback, because none of them have really been very good this year.
Yeah. And what Harsin said earlier today during the teleconference was that Finley has been practicing. He will not be out for the season. So he said if they're not out for the season or some other NCAA violation or whatever, then they're going to practice. So he's going to be out for this game, but he's still practicing. But to your point, they've been playing with Robbie Ashford and then Zach
Calzada.
Yeah, Zach Calzada. He had the win over Bama, wasn't it?
Yeah. Beat Bama last year as A&M's quarterback.
Right. So it seems like they're all in the same realm, essentially.
Yeah. Well, and the thing about Calzada is, he has done it before, but that Bama game, that came out of nowhere, because he wasn't very good, and then all of a sudden he lit up Bama, and he transfers to Auburn, and I think Auburn expected him to be the starting quarterback, and then all of a sudden he's third string because he had a terrible camp. Robbie Ashford hadn't looked very good, but he is the second leading rusher on the team, so he adds that to it. I don't know. They're all just kind of guys. I don't think there's an all SEC quarterback in this game on either side, to be quite honest. I'm not sure that the quarterback is what ultimately determines this game. Okay. Let's see. Kyle wants to know, do you think the lack of height at wide receiver is a problem for the offense? I don't really think so. I mean, their 2 best receivers, I don't think anybody's accusing Dominic Lovett or Luther Burden of being giants, right? And then they throw a ball that Toski Dove high points in the end zone, where height, helps you, and it helped him catch it, but he can't get his feet down. So the 2 best guys are 6'2" and 5'11" or something like that. I think the measurables don't really matter.
Their 3 best wide receivers statistically are probably all under 6 foot in Bannister, Burden, and Lovett, production-wise. Toski Dove, for one, Brady Cook doesn't throw up enough jump balls for that to matter as much. And the one chance that he had on that back fade last week, he couldn't get his feet down. I just feel like we haven't seen too much out of Toski, really. He had a couple plays versus La Tech. Seems like it's been quiet since then. Yeah. So I don't know if height or whatever matters in this offense right now.
Yeah, I mean, there could be more production, but I don't think it's because guys aren't tall enough. Javon asks if any of the true freshman linemen are ready to play now. Look, if you're turning into a true freshman on the offensive line in the SEC in week 4, like, you're in trouble, man.
Yeah, they've been talking a lot recently, especially this week, about taking bad stuff off of tape and putting good stuff on tape. If you have that going on, like you just mentioned, that's not good. That's not something you want to echo to all the SEC that, hey, we've got this freshman playing in the SEC
Right.
in week 4. That sounds scary.
Right. Like Armand Mimbo might end up being one hell of a player, but I don't think he's going to save your season by putting him in as a true freshman. So this is a popular question. We've already gotten this like 2 or 3 times. iDream says, how much hotter does Eli's seat get if it's another 40-12 blowout? And like I said on another show I did earlier today, I said, right now, I'm not going to listen to anybody that wants to talk about getting rid of Eli Drinkwitz. But if he goes out and gets blown out by this Auburn team, like, I might at least start to entertain the idea. Like, you got to show up, man. You've at least got to compete in this game.
Yeah. I don't think it affects him as far as getting fired after this season, but just similar to the Kansas State game where a lot of people thought, Missouri would lose to K-State anyway. It's the matter in which they lost. And that's why I remember saying it felt like it was 2 losses, although it was just 1. Nell's an L. But it felt worse than that because of how they got beat. So if they lose to this Auburn team, like you said, and again on the road, I think that's going to become more of a topic of discussion that he's only all right at home, but they're terrible on the road over the last going on year 3. That is not good.
And like every coach says, look, man, it's just a football game. They play in a stadium too, but I don't know why it is, but the road has made a difference. I mean, somebody asked Martez Manuel last night, why has this team been so bad on the road? And he gave the right answer. He said, man, I wish I could tell you. Like, if they knew, they would have fixed it. But there's been something going on.
Yeah, I don't know, but they're gonna have to fix that quick. Especially, it just feels like, again, that Kansas State loss. It was only 1 loss, but we kind of learned some things, and now it feels like, can they just get to 6-6 at this point?
Yeah, and also, to be fair, like, the K-State loss seems worse right now because it's literally all we have to go on. I mean, if they go down and win at Auburn, then you're going to go, okay, K-State sucked, but they're not maybe as bad as they would be judging them on their worst day. Cam Cameron says plenty of discourse about Burden and punt returns. Haven't heard as much questioning the decision not to use Nate Pete in the kickoff return game. And that is kind of interesting. Pete led the Pac-12, I think, in kickoff returns last year, but also kickoff returns, just there's not that many of them in a game anymore. I would say probably 75% of kickoffs are touchbacks.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say, that just kickoffs or touchbacks most of the time. And Nate Pete is back there, though. I know I've seen him back there
He has been a couple times. Yeah,
it's just either it's going to the other side, or 90% of Missouri's games, it's just going over their heads.
You're right. Yeah, and I mean, and this happened because your reaction was funny, because I have the same reaction every time somebody fair catches a kickoff. I'm like, hang on, man, what the hell are they doing? I always forget that's a thing you can do now.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, fair catching in the end zone, like, I understood that, but when I seen someone do that, I think it was
at like the 6-yard line.
I was
or something
like, yo, they're playing with fire, but no, you can do that now.
Yeah, I they put it in a couple years ago, but it still seems really weird to me. Yeah. So we're going to wrap this part up with AU Stock says, are we possibly looking at a 6-3 game this week? And kind of in this generally with some sort of a prediction, a thought. I mean, our official predictions will go up Friday. Mine is going to be the same as I'm about to say here, but right now, and look, feel free to change it, but right now, what's your pick for this game?
Oh, can you go first?
I'll go first. And like, I will fully admit that, like, this is kind of me just having fun and being a little sarcastic, but also it's possible. Like, I'm picking Auburn 8-6. I'm giving both teams 2 field goals and giving Auburn the win on a late safety. That's just kind of what I think of both of these offenses right now. Is it really going to happen? Probably not. I'm just trying to make a point. I don't gamble. I don't know what the over under is, but I would probably take the under because I just don't trust either of these offenses to do much.
Yeah, see, you stick to your word. I am liable to change this while writing the preview tomorrow, and I'm okay with that. Right now in my head, I say 17-10. I do think place kicking is going to play a big part of it. Harrison Beavis missed those couple field goals last week. The 52-yarder, no one really blamed him for. The 39-yarder was a bit weird. Something I had noticed, though, last week in practice, the kicking part we got to see, Harrison Beavis did miss 2 field goals, and then he missed 2 field goals last week, and then he did miss a field goal yesterday. I want to say at least one. So
Okay.
that doesn't indicate anything, but that's something I noticed. I noticed their place kicker. It says something like 68 and 94. It's not a great thing, but I think they have the running backs to get them closer for him to make a makeable kick.
Okay. Kyle McCormick says he got the under at 52. I support that. I don't give gambling advice. I don't gamble, but I got a hard time seeing these teams playing a 28-24 game, man.
Yeah, same thing.
All right, man. Well, Jarod, appreciate it. We're going to let you cut out a little bit early. We will talk to offensive players tonight and look for again, just one last pitch, the story tomorrow on Drinkwitz and Harsin, and a lot of connections between these teams.
A lot of connections going on with these teams, and a lot of history just as far as who's going to when the teams are lined up 53 and a third yards from each other, whatever the measurements are. There's going to be a lot of things beside just SEC conference football.
Absolutely. Well, appreciate it, man. We'll catch up later. Thanks, Jarod.
All right. See you guys.
All right, so that is Jarod Hamilton joining us for the first half of the show. Again, the second half of the show, which we will get to here momentarily, we're going to do a little Auburn-centric preview. Before we do that, do want to remind you guys that this is brought to you every week by James Carlton State Farm. James Carlton, look, he's got a lot of things going for him. Very good guy. Talked to him a few times, gotten to know him a little bit over the last few weeks. Big Missouri fan, which should appeal to you guys. PowerMizzou.com supporter, which appeals to me. I don't know if it appeals to you guys or not. It should, but it appeals to me. But look, all he wants is a shot to earn your insurance business. Customer service is their thing. He's got a team of 8 people. It's a large team. You're going to actually talk to a human being when you call James. And you can, his information has been scrolling across the screen throughout this show. 314-961-4800 is the phone number. You can also do it online at carltoninsurance.net. But if you call him, you're not going to get a recording. You're not going to have to press 14 buttons. You're actually going to talk to a human being. And all James wants is a shot to talk to you, give you a quote on insurance. If you call him, if you tell him you heard about it on PowerMizzou.com, and he gives you that quote, he's also going to donate $20 to Advancing Missouri Athletes, the Mizzou NIL Collective. So, hey, help out Mizzou, maybe save yourself some money, help out a Power Mizzou subscriber. There's really no downsides to this whole thing, right? So if your insurance costs a leg and an arm, James Carlton State Farm is where you need to go. Where I always go for Auburn Tigers information is my man, JG Tate. He is at auburnsports.com. He is basically me for Auburn fans. He's the publisher of Auburn Sports. He's been there a long time, knows Auburn as well as anybody, entertaining as hell. I talked to Jay earlier this week. I'm going to let you guys check that out now, and I'll be back to wrap it up after. It is time to bring in friend of the show. Can we call you friend of the show, JG Tate? Does that work?
Of course. You're welcome to do so, Gabriel.
All right, Jay Tate, publisher of auburnsports.com, podcaster, YouTuber extraordinaire, expert on all things Auburn. So here's what I want to do for this game, Jay. I want to just post the Spider-Man meme and just, it's like Missouri and Auburn. They both beat 2 really crappy teams, lost to the only decent team they played. Neither one has an offense. Neither one's sure about the quarterback. That's where we're at.
Yes, that is exactly where we're at. Let's see. Missouri's still, what, a 9-point underdog in this game? Something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so I thought Auburn was stinky in that Penn State game. That's the worst home loss. I'm not talking about points. I'm talking about just the way they looked since 2012. They took a couple on the chin that year. That was Chiswick last year. They took a 38-0 from Georgia, and then they had one against Texas A&M where I'm convinced Johnny Manziel could have scored 1,000 points on that night, but they only scored 58. So this is drama, lots of drama at Auburn, because as you know, they tried to fire Harsin before, and he narrowly escaped. And here's what the payoff is that this team's not very good. So.
Yeah, well, like if you're talking about firing a guy all offseason, it kind of seems like maybe you should go ahead and do it. Talking to you, Nebraska, talking to you, Arizona State. Harsin gets the chance to save his job, but like I know in our business we don't want to fire people before they're fired. The outside view is it kind of looks inevitable. I mean, what's he got to do to stick around?
Yeah, I think it's inevitable. I mean, honestly, I guess if they just went on some hellacious win streak right at this point, and they've got Missouri this week, obviously they've got LSU the next weekend. Those are both at home. And then after that, it gets gnarly. I mean, they got to go to Georgia. They got to play in Alabama. They got Arkansas, Mississippi State, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, if he were to get on some 7-win streak, I think he would probably make it. But I look at this team and I look at the deficiencies and the shortcomings, and I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah, that doesn't seem super likely. There's a thread on our board, and like it's a popular thing. What if Missouri actually wins this game? Like, does Harsin make it to Monday?
No, I think they would fire.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Missouri has kind of a history of doing that, like beating it. They've gotten like 3 Texas A&M coaches fired, I think, but that's not something Missouri should take pride in, right? Because that's like we lost to you guys. We can't let this guy back in the building, man.
Yeah, that's not so good. But I don't know. Like I don't know. I'm just kind of old school. I think of Missouri as being a great basketball school myself. So I mean, because I love me some Derek Chivas back in the day, and I think they're going to be there, man. I think Dennis Gates is the guy. I know there's a football show, but I love CY. I knew Charlton Young when he was a very, very young assistant coach at Auburn, and I just pull for those guys.
He still looks. I wish I looked as young as he does. He's like 51. He looks way younger than I do.
Yeah, I know. He's a very handsome man. He's a good guy. Yeah, he is. I mean, he's just good coach, good recruiter, good dude. I mean, that's why he's a stud.
I'll pass that along to him. So who's playing quarterback for Auburn this week?
2 guys. They'll be switching between TJ Finley, who's not very good, and Robbie Ashford, who's not very good. They're supposed to be playing Zach Calzada, who started at Texas A&M last year, but he's just been bad. I don't really know. There's been a lot of talk about injuries, and if he's got one, they're hiding it a lot, and he sure is playing a lot or practicing a lot if he's injured. And I've never seen any indication with my own eyes that anything's wrong with him. So I think he's just been bad, and that's really saying something because the quarterbacks they got right now are not very good either.
He has bruised ability this week. I believe
he's possibly serially abused ability.
Yeah. It really kind of comes to Auburn's still got a good defense, right? Like, I know they kind of got abused against Penn State a little bit, but they got put in some bad spots too.
They did. They don't create turnovers. You know, when Auburn was really good in 2010, the defense gave up a lot of points and a lot of yardage, but they always got some turnovers, and that was enough. And with this defense, I like the players, but they don't create turnovers. And so Auburn, you might know better than me at this point. I think Auburn's turnover margin is like -6 or 7 at this point, maybe 8.
They've only played 3 games.
I know, dude. It's been terrible. Bad. They haven't created a turnover yet, so it's just interceptions and fumbles, bro.
Well, I mean, Mercer and San Jose State are well known for ball security. Those are programs that stress that.
Mercer Bears.
So
part of the DNA there.
So not that there's any history or scar tissue for Missouri fans of watching an Auburn running back just run the ball over and over and over, but that's kind of what this Auburn team is, right? If Tank Bigsby's really good, they might be pretty good and beat some people, and if you can handle him, you're okay.
I like Tank. I mean, he's good. I think he's a little overrated in the sense. No, I mean he's like averaging 6.5 a carry, so he doesn't suck at all. He's really good. But I actually like the other tailback better, Jarquez Hunter. Who's a sophomore this year. He's better for them is the thing. So Tank likes to run with blockers in front of him. He's that kind of a guy, more of a power runner. And Auburn doesn't really have the linemen to do a lot of useful pulling. And so they end up doing a lot more zone blocking, which works better for them. And Jarquez is a great zone runner, and Tank is not. So to me, Tank's kind of a misfit in a way. But man, once he gets rolling downfield, dude, he is hard to stop because he will just truck you and keep going and step on you and use you like a welcome mat kind of.
Well,
But yeah,
I'm glad
that's the strength.
I'm glad you explained that, because when you first said he's the kind of running back that likes to run with blockers in front of him, I thought, well, I mean, I would think they all do, right?
Well, not
But
necessarily.
I'm glad you explained what you meant. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean. It's like a power concept versus like a zone concept, that kind of a thing. And Auburn runs them both, really. So
yeah, like the scheme, I'm kind of interested, because when Eli Drinkwitz got hired here, he said his offense was like kind of a mix of what Gus Malzahn did with some things he picked up from Brian Harsin. So I don't know how similar I haven't watched Auburn play this year, because the only game that I possibly could have cared about was right in the middle of Missouri playing Abilene Christian, and that was obviously not one we wanted to miss. That was a big game
every down.
So, but I mean, how would you describe what Harsin does offensively? What's the scheme?
That's interesting to hear that Drink says it's a mix of those two, because they're very different. Gus runs that typical, shotgun, running a lot of two-back sets. Harsin and Eric Keesaw, who's the offensive coordinator, they're running a lot more pro stuff. So it's more like single back and more like the kind of stuff I see, honestly, as a Raiders. I'm a Raiders fan. It's horrible day to day to be a Raiders fan, but
yeah,
it looks a lot like the Raiders offense to me. So it's very different than what Gus runs. Hugely different.
I feel like it would they would do well to get a Devontae Adams in there then. That would help.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Auburn's talent at wideout. I don't want to say talent necessarily, but just how, like, if I'm Missouri and I look at Auburn's roster and go, how many of those dudes will we like to have over here? I'm just not sure there's not a large number. I'm not sure there's any. I don't know. Yeah. I just don't know that Auburn's got good wideouts, and I know they don't have good linemen, and the quarterbacks aren't very good. So you kind of get the feeling. This is why we're having the conversation about Harsin, man. They're just not recruiting very well. And Gus got fired because he didn't recruit. And that's the situation here now.
Yeah, wideout is the one place I think Missouri has guys. Like, they feel pretty good about a couple of those guys. I don't really know what else they have on offense. They have not shown to have a whole lot. So my preliminary pick for this game, I am going Auburn 8-6. I think both teams get a couple field goals, and Auburn might pick up a safety late. 8-6. That seem about right to you?
Yeah, I'd be surprised. I mean, I don't know a lot about Missouri, but I'd be surprised if there's a SEC defense out there that's going to let Auburn's offense run all over them. I don't see it, man.
Yeah. Hey, man, it's going to be fun, but here's what I'm disappointed in. So I've never been to Auburn because Missouri's never played football at Auburn ever. So this is going to be my first trip down there, and I've been to some of these places. I've gone to Tennessee and I've gone to Florida, but the problem is when I've gone there, those teams haven't been very good, and they've been to early kickoffs and they weren't excited for the game, so they were empty stadiums. Like, am I going to? Is that what I'm getting at Jordan Hare?
No, I think it'll be somewhat full. I mean, they hold maybe 90-ish, and I would imagine it'll be 75 to 80, depending on the weather. It's 11 a.m., right?
Yeah. It's
been super dry here and nice, so that means it's probably going to be rainy and nasty by that time. So I don't know, man. It's a good place to watch a football game, though. It's really loud. It's one of the 2 or 3 loudest places. I always think Florida's louder than Auburn, but you see these lists and people say it's the loudest. But it's nice. It's just old, man, and they haven't done enough to kind of bump it up. I don't know if you've seen the TV. We call it the Jabotron, named after former athletic director Jay Jacobs. The Jabotron is this massive TV. I mean, it spans it's an entire end zone width and probably wider than that. And Jay was very proud of that. He was very proud.
If this game does end up 8-6, what are the chances they put like a better game on that TV? So I can watch
I've seen it done before. I've seen it done before, but I remember when Arkansas had that really big TV and everybody's like, oh shit, that's really incredible. And then this is way bigger than that. I think it's the biggest TV in college athletics. Okay.
I covered the Cotton Bowl in Jerry World. They have some large televisions down there.
That's what they have, real money. It's just Auburn. We spent all the money on coaches, 5 coaches, ousted coaches.
Right. Getting ready to maybe do that again. You do this long enough. You've been there where you're just covering a season that seems like a death march. I assume your board is super uplifting and great right now.
I'm actually taking a break from the board. Honestly, I told them, I was like, you guys have at it for a couple of days. I'm just not doing it. But, this is year 25 or 26 for me at Auburn. So I saw the Death March in 98. I saw the Death March in 03, which he actually got a reprieve from. The Death March in 08, the Death March in 12, the Death March in 20. I mean, I've seen this. I know how this goes. I'm used to this script. And there's a commonality among all of them. And it's I don't know. You can see it coming from a long way away. And dude, everybody at Auburn saw this season coming, and next year they're going to have less talent unless somebody comes in here and fixes it through the transfer portal. So
it just was one of those you saw from the outside and you go like, even if he's a really good coach, it just, I don't know, man. Auburn, that doesn't seem like a fit. Like that's a weird fit. And I know that's a weird way to like assess a hire, but that's what it seemed like.
Well, no, you're right. It's the worst fit. And the reason that he's here in the first place is because there was a bunch of infighting at Auburn. I know that surprises you, those of you who know anything about Auburn. And the athletic director, he's the only athletic director in the country. Well, he's gone now. He just got, whatever. He got non-tendered. He didn't get fired. He got non-tendered. He's the only athletic director in the country who has to go rogue to hire somebody in his own program.
Right. Because
at Auburn, the athletic director doesn't call shots like that. No. So he felt like they were going to try to cram some really bad candidates down his throat. And he said, I'm going to go hire, we'll just hire the guy at Boise. Do you guys like him? Did he win his bowl game? Oh, you said he won the Potato Bowl. Well, fuck it. Yeah, that's good enough. We'll do it. Let's do it. We can get it cheap. His wife's real pretty. He looks very handsome. He's very, very fit. A lot better than Gus. So let's just do it. Let's do it. And he gets here, and it's very Idaho-y. And, I mean, seriously, dude, like they still haven't really grasped SEC recruiting yet. It's almost like, we're going to recruit a lot. And you're like, okay, well, are you going to? Yeah, we're going to recruit a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, why don't you guys go do it?
I like you kind of ask what's the plan? Well, we're going to win. No, I know, like that's the goal, but like, how do you plan to win? Well, we're going to win. We want to win titles. We want to hang banners. That's what we do here.
In South Park, they had the underpants gnomes, and you would step 1 was collect underpants, and step 3 was profit. They go, hey, what's step 2? And everybody goes, hey.
That's awesome.
Hey, we just got to have fun, man. I have fun writing about Auburn, talking about Auburn. Some people
if this was a higher tech show, I would like buy the rights to the underpants gnome scene and I would just play that for the rest of the show. But all right, so look, the important thing, I think there are going to be some Missouri fans making this trip because they don't get that chance very much here in the way the SEC is currently lined up. Once every 37 years, you get to play a road game somewhere. So what should Missouri fans that are coming in, like, what do they got to do on what's game day like? What are the spots they got to hit? I know you're out with the kids all the time, Saturday mornings before games.
I was out with our subscribers the other day.
Yeah,
we just kind of roam around from tailgate to tailgate. It's a great tailgating spot. I really honestly believe that most of the fans that come, visiting fans, walk away saying that Auburn's a very friendly place from a tailgating perspective. So I was tailgating a lot, not on purpose, but I was tailgating with a lot of Penn State people last week, and they were great. And our folks are being very, very hospitable. I don't think you're going to find any issues here if you come to Auburn. I think it's one of the happiest, nicest places to tailgate. And particularly this year where everybody knows the team blows and they're kind of like hoping maybe this is the one game they're going to win. Like, I think they'll be in a decent mood. But Auburn people just kind of embrace the suckiness, like when things get bad. That's someone they're almost nicer. So I don't know, this being kind of a down year for them.
So is there like an official bunker tailgate that like my people could swing by and say, hey, we're rivals people too. We love JG Tate.
No, not really. I mean, they're just kind of scattered around. But you know how it is.
What about post game? Like, game's going to end at 2:30. They're going to go drink and watch games. Where should they go Saturday night?
Find them a tailgate and get drunk.
Still tailgates? They just hang out after the game?
Yeah, absolutely. Drink brown water. If you find tailgates with brown water, I think those are the ones you want to stay at. I found a few last weekend, and yeah, that's where I like to be.
I was hoping your pool might be open for business after the game. And
it is. If you'd like to come by, sir. Yeah, I like living in the pool. I wish I could work in the pool. I was trying to tell you and Neil that yesterday. Like, can we work this out? I don't know. Hey, I got to go to Missouri though. Do you remember what year that was, Gabriel, when Auburn played at Missouri?
It was I think it was 2017 because it was Missouri's fourth straight loss and they got obliterated, and it was the game where Barry Odom just got up and went on this rant about all the critics and the third string left tackle at Rockbridge, and then like he set a fire in the facility the next week, and that was a memorable week. That didn't end well.
Barry Odom's good people, man. I like him, but I had a good experience. I flew into St. Louis. It was a long drive to Columbia. I thought it was like next door, and it ain't next door.
Yeah, it's a couple.
And then there's some oddities about that stadium, right? First of all, there weren't anybody in it, and second of all, like you take the elevator up, and then you go outside to go back inside.
Yes.
I found that very odd.
Well, that's the catwalk. You can just kind of kind of take in the views for a few feet.
I'm going to sashay in the catwalk. And the Missouri hospital looked incredible. It was like a palace.
Yeah, they've built a lot of new buildings here, and I don't know. They have some building they're real proud of. It costs millions of dollars associated with the hospital. I don't know much about it. I only watch the sports. I don't pay much attention to the rest of it.
Well, it looked really cool. I had a good experience there. I wish you'd invited me to your house, but you basically gave me the middle finger and told me to go rummage through the trash somewhere.
I mean, that sounds like me. It's possible. Yeah,
well, I know that I was a Raiders fan, so you had been a Chiefs fan.
I mean, yeah, it's I tell you, I felt bad about that yesterday, but I didn't feel terrible about it.
I know that you would have not cared at all if if I wasn't a Raiders fan, you would just laugh at them, as anybody should. It was horrendous. Right. It was pathetic. Yeah. It was just unacceptable.
Yeah, my dislike of them has nothing to do with you. I'm glad we could hang out here on YouTube for a little bit, and I will talk to your people on Saturday night or Saturday morning, whatever. I may not see you.
Like my daughter, or
no, your minions, the people you send to cover the games.
Oh, my lieutenant. Yeah,
lieutenant. I like that word better.
Yeah, or deputy commander. Yeah, we got some great folks here at auburnsports.com, and I enjoy watching them work.
Well, good deal. I don't know, Jay, any parting shots, anything you just want to say to the people?
Well, first of all, I love PowerMizzou. You guys have been incredible supporters of mine. No, seriously, it's a great community. I've checked by a few times this week just to kind of see what everybody's talking about. And Gabriel, I think the folks at PowerMizzou are very lucky to have you. And thank you for staying with our network.
Yeah, there you go. That seems like a good way to end it. Same back at you. And we'll 8-6. Remember it on Saturday.
8-6. All right. Sounds good. I'm writing it down right now.
All right. So that is Jay Tate, auburnsports.com publisher. He knows a lot of things about Auburn, covered him for a long time. And you can kind of see what the attitude is down in Auburn this week. Yeah, maybe we'll win this one. Probably won't win many others, but big game for both teams, no question. Long term, probably bigger for Missouri because I think the end isn't going to change for Auburn and for Brian Harsin based on this game. They may win and delay it a week or two, but we all know what's going to happen at Auburn. Eli Drinkwitz is still trying to build this thing and write his story, and it could change. And this game could have an effect for Auburn. It just is, it's going to end at some point, only a question of when. So appreciate you guys joining us. Appreciate Jay Tate being a part of it. Jarod earlier with us. If you are watching live, before you log off, do me a favor, hit the like button on the show, subscribe to the channel, say good things about us on social media, wherever you might do that. If you're listening on the podcast, which will be put up shortly after this ends, then leave us a nice review. And again, share it on social media. You can get that podcast on Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, basically wherever you do the whole podcast thing. So appreciate that. All you guys listening and joining us here on Wednesday afternoon. Once again, thanks to Jay and Jarod, and thanks to James Carlton of James Carlton State Farm, carltoninsurance.net, 314-961-4800, facebook.com/Carlton Insurance. And once again, if you call or email or text or whatever, just find James, Google. I'm sure there's other ways to find him, but anyway, you find James. If you tell him you heard about his agency on PowerMizzou and you get a quote from him, he is going to give $20 in your name to the Advancing Missouri Athletes, the Mizzou NIL Collective. So appreciate you guys joining us Friday afternoon. Jarod and I both headed to Auburn, Alabama. First trip down there, Jordan-Hare Stadium. We'll have you covered on Saturday, come what may. Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you next week.